What's up, guys? Ryan here. Hope you're enjoying your summer. I am as well, but I still got to get in here, get in the dungeon, and create some videos for you guys. And today I want to go back to my roots, talk about how I bootstrapped my first seven-figure lead generation business. This is going back to 2019, before the worldwide thing that happened, and how I pivoted kind of from retainers and having a more general SMMA agency into lead generation. So I'm going to go over the trials and the tribulations of that period and talk about how we essentially bootstrapped it, how I did this very cheaply because I had literally no money, and how you can do the same thing, doing some of the methods that I talk about here. I did this all essentially for free, not, spending as minimal dollars as possible besides a few pieces of software. So this is going to be more just kind of like walking through the journey of what that looked like. So let's jump on the computer. I'm just going to use a few Excalibur segments here just to kind of go over this story with you guys. And you're going to get to see the first funnel I ever created. I dug it up out of the archives. It's pretty cringe, but it worked, and we had some success with it. So, and as always, guys, make sure to join the Leadbase free school down below. We're doing monthly free calls in there, and we have more courses that we've released. There's actually 3 courses in Leadbase free where you can learn how to build a lead gen business, watch me build a lead gen business from scratch. There's cold email training. And if you want more than that, if you want actually us to walk side by side with you as you build your business, just like 240 other people have already done, you can join Leadbase Pro. It's $99 a month. You get 3 weekly calls. You get a very comprehensive course on the foundations of writing strong hooks and offers online, how to set up a lead gen business, how to get clients, everything you need to build your business. You get a ton of templates as well. For $99 a month, it's like the biggest no-brainer ever. We've had multiple people say, I've spent $10,000 on training, and this is better for $99. And I'll pop some of them up here so you don't just take my word for it. All right, guys, let's jump in the video. This is how I bootstrapped my first 7-figure lead generation business, guys. First brand, I should say. So the first brand that we ever built. So if you don't know how we do lead generation businesses, we build a brand, and we build a brand so that we own the asset. So instead of just running ads for a bunch of clients and going into their ads manager and using their brands, I build a brand, I build a website. And the first brand I ever built was Timeshare Tracy. So this is our first brand here. It was the timeshare cancellation niche. This is our brand, right? So we build a brand, we own the brand. We then can generate leads through that brand and sell them to whoever we want. We get to make the decision. Again, instead of working for a client on a retainer, we get to decide what we want to do with that brand. And the beauty of this is that over time, we generate leads, we own the data, we build IP, we build up this equity in this brand, as opposed to getting fired by our clients and then never really taking anything away from it. Here's the kind of journey of building this brand. So I got into this niche because I thought it was interesting. I had heard about it before. I figured it wasn't as saturated. This is a very important part of building lead gen business, is picking a niche that you want to go into. And I thought, okay, like there's life insurance, there's mortgage, there's financial brands, there's home service, there's solar, and none of them really spoke to me. There's a couple things you want to look at when you're picking a niche, like what's the total like potential market size, how competitive is the market, how strong of an offer can you create in any given niche. And I actually knew somebody who was in this business, and it's funny because he wasn't ever a client of mine, but I just knew of him. Timeshare cancellation is interesting. Somebody buys a timeshare for $100,000, let's say. They realize that was not worth $100,000. They think they're buying real estate, but really that $100,000 is essentially worth zero or not very much on the moment they drive it off the lot, right? So this timeshare is not worth a lot. They feel like they've been scammed. They want out. So there's timeshare cancellation companies. A lot of them are super shady. So I saw there's an opportunity to only, generate leads for kind of the legit companies and be this middleman who's kind of not reviewing them, but kind of vetting them. Because there's obviously review sites. We're not a review site, but we're passing leads off to recommended partners, essentially. And so I saw this opportunity to generate leads in that space and help people find the right partner for their situation. So we chose timeshare cancellation. There's also this potential at the time. This isn't a thing anymore, timeshare cancellation. In fact, the industry's really kind of gone downhill to some extent. At the time, you could potentially get a refund on that timeshare. So it was like the biggest no-brainer offer ever. It's like, get out of your timeshare and get your money back. It's like, yeah, I'm going to try and do that. So anyways, we decided to go into this niche. This is me and Ryan B. So he was my partner still at the time. What I did was, again, I created a brand in this single niche in timeshare cancellation. I didn't, we didn't take a crazy amount of time on this website. I shouldn't speak for Ryan B. He's the one who built it, but he built a pretty simple website with a not too crazy of a template. We just needed something that looked professional. It was pro enough that we could go to clients and say, here's our brand. We're this third party. We're going to recommend leads or, recommend people work with you. We made sure people had good reviews and ratings, could be, Better Business Bureau, made sure we were avoiding people who are actually scamming people who own timeshares, because there was cancellation companies scamming people. So this also gave us another element of, we could write, advertorials, we could do quizzes around like, hey, avoid the scams. We've vetted the companies. We'll recommend you use somebody who's legit. So we created this brand, Timeshare Tracy. Right away, I wanted to go get clients. So a lot of people, I think, struggle in this part there. They're like, oh, I'm not ready to have a client yet. I haven't run enough ads. It's like, it doesn't, you don't need to. If you were to get a client on retainer, you would just be setting their ads up and hoping for the best. So it's the same with lead generation. We want to actually kind of learn by doing. That's the only way to do it anyway. Sure, if you want to spend a couple $100 of your own money and test some stuff inside of your, your brand account, that's totally cool. I totally get that. But I just went ahead. I didn't spend, I'm pretty sure I didn't spend $1 until I got a client. So I went out, I did cold email manually. The only thing I was paying for this time was Unbounced. That was the only kind of subscription I had. So it was $99 at the time, or 97 or whatever. I did everything manually. I went out and cold emailed everyone in the space, and the space is pretty tight knit. So I was able to get in front of people. I think I got my first client on LinkedIn. It was a small timeshare cancellation company. Very curated messages. Again, hey, I built this brand. We're helping people find, solutions to their timeshare to get out of it. Would you be interested in partnering and trying out some leads? Really simple, really nonchalant. You don't want to be like everybody, everyone else's perfect emails that are like curated cold emails. I get like 10 a day. I ignore every single one of them. I'm very nonchalant. I would literally say, want to try some leads, like stuff like that. Like, hey, how's it going? Like, I've got a bunch of leads, want to try them out. Or at the time, I hadn't even generated a lead. So, hey, I've got this brand. I help people, get out of their timeshares. I'm looking to partner with somebody. You want to try out some leads? Just super, super chill. Like a real person would talk, not like the freaking cold emails I get. They're so bad. Don't make perfect emails like everyone else, okay? So that was step 2. Step 3 is, again, I didn't spend $1 until I got a client. So this is really scary. I remember the day that I got, I guess I should speak about this client first before I talk about that actually. But I remember the day I got this client. I started on retainer plus part, like I think a flat fee per closed deal. I guess I can't go to this slide. I started ad spend plus $300 closed deal. So I think he was giving me like $1,500 a month for ad spend, and then any closed deal, it was around $300. It might have been $500, but I think it was $300. This is a good way to start, because there's not much risk on my end. In fact, there's really no risk. Worst case, I spend his money, and it's like, obviously that would be a tough situation if you got no leads, but I had kind of done my research and I was decently confident in the funnel that I'd set up. But at the end of the day, it is terrifying. I remember I was at the time helping my wife shoot weddings. She's a wedding photographer, or was. She's retired. So I had to go and be a second shooter. I honestly hated it. She knows that. But I remember looking at my phone and just refreshing, like, did I get my first lead? Did I get my first lead? Did I get my first lead? And my first lead ever came in, and it was $80. And that's not a great cost per lead, but I was just like, I can do this. I got a freaking lead. And at the time, I didn't run anything through lead forms. I just ran it straight to an advertorial, and I'll show you that advertorial here. So this is, I took this from Dan Wardrop's training at the time. This is whatever, I took that in 2017 or 2018. And so I set up this pen name. So this is even pre Timeshare Tracy. This is just doing a pen name with John Simmons, my boy here. So I guess I can talk a bit about the transition into Timeshare Tracy after this, but this is what I set up. It's like an advertorial. Click and check our recommended firm and talk to a timeshare specialist today. And then I had at the bottom, I think this actually clicked through to a quiz page. It doesn't even work anymore. But I just talked about what to avoid, what to look for. Yeah, so I wrote this in 2018, I think. Yeah, there's only a handful of legitimate companies. So I'm kind of trying to be like a news outlet here. How to find a legitimate firm. We're going to help you. So I did a bunch of research. This really, writing this really helped me just dig into the niche and figure out like a lot of what was going on and really understand what people are looking for. I read forums, and I got my first lead for $80 with this. Again, a long story short. Ended up kind of, I'm like, okay, I got a lead. Let's keep this running. Again, losing my mind, just like, I hope I don't waste this guy's money. Like, that would suck. That would suck, guys. And you got to take risks in business. So just go, and you got to just freaking send it. That's such a Chad thing to say. This brings me back to my Big Papa Leads days, guys. But really, you just got to go for it. You can't sit there and worry. Go get a client and run an order. Worst case, you have some awkward conversations. Worst case, again, maybe you got to refund someone. That's the risk of freaking business, guys. I've had to refund people very, very minimal amount of times. And it wasn't like I delivered them 100 leads and then they're like, oh, this sucks, give me my money back. It was in cases where they ordered some leads, we did a few, and then they changed their mind or something like that, and I refunded them. Maybe I lost a couple $100. In this case, again, the deal is when you work with someone on retainer, hey, you know what? If you somehow got 0 leads, that is what it is. They took the risk on. Was I gonna go blow this guy's $1,500 and get 0 leads? No. After a couple $100, if I had no leads, I'd be like, hey man, you know what? I can't get you leads. That's what would have happened. Okay, so again, there's pretty minimal risk here, guys. And so I started getting this guy leads. I think the lead cost came down to about $50 or $60 with this advertorial, and he started actually getting some deals. He probably got 5 or 6 deals. I was like, oh, I just made some money. And I learned so much by doing this. Again, guys, I got so many data points. I was running this inside my own ad account, even though it was this like kind of funny pen name brand, John Simmons. Actually, I think no, John Simmons was the original. I had another guy named like Liam Miller or something. It's pretty funny. They're all just like stock photo guys. I kind of got over my fear. I think that's very important. I got over my fear of failure, and I, made a couple bucks with this guy. He wasn't going to be the client that grew with me. He was like a one-man show. And so I knew that I needed more clients. So pretty quickly, a couple weeks in, I was like, I need more clients. At that point, we ended up building Timeshare Tracy. We ended up sending a lot more cold emails. We ended up, okay, we're going to scale this. We're going to grow this. We think this niche can work. So we built Timeshare Tracy. We wanted more of like a personified brand. At the time, that was pretty innovative. So instead of just being, a corporate brand or like even a pen name or like Timeshare Tracy just seemed like this, such a unique, even value proposition on its own. So we reached out to brands. We got a lot of hits. We got a lot of like answers, and we got one of the biggest companies on board. Instantly, they wired us $5,500. I think it was actually $55 per lead. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, we're about to crush this. Like, we're going to be rich. These guys, we're going to crush this so easily. And at the time, we're like, oh, they're paying us 55 per lead. I don't know why we quoted them that. I can't remember why, but I remember getting leads for 55. So let's try lead forms. And so we try lead forms, very simple kind of like questions on the lead forms, and generate, $10 leads. We send them 100 leads for like $10. We make like $4,000 in profit. They're like, this is the best. We're just going to make so much money. I was like seeing the dollar signs. The first email we get back from them is like, hey, these leads are brutal. No one picked up the phone. We don't want to buy any more leads. Sick. Okay. So that's the lesson you learn with lead forms. But again, these guys weren't like, give us all our money back. They just said the lead sucked. Very rarely, if you work with any company that's like decent size, they're never going to, I've never had them be like, give me all my money back for this order. That just doesn't happen. If you're working with a single person, that they might say that. They might be a dick about it, but chances are you're not selling them 100 leads off the bat. Maybe you sold them 5 or 10. They're like, oh, I want a refund. Sure, that can happen. In that case, I would say like, hey, how about I just, try and deliver you a few more leads? Let's try and make this work. What's the feedback? What's going on here? You're not having a good contact rate? Okay, let's work on that together. Sure, there's been times like, I actually had one guy, the only back charge I've ever had was the guy that said the leads were good and then just back charged me and never talked to me again because maybe they weren't that good. That was for like 5 leads, and I was so mad. I'm like, dog, I would have refunded you. You just ruined my Stripe account. Luckily, my Stripe account was okay because it was one warning and I had a bunch of purchases after that. Again, guys, there's risk in business, okay? So these leads suck. You're fired. Third client, couldn't get a hold of leads. I think I sold another 50 leads to a client. The contact rate was terrible, even to a landing page at the time. But then I got a fourth client, and I think they started with like 80, maybe it was 50 leads or something like that. Then they order 100 leads, and then they order 200 leads, and things are working. And these are the same leads that this other client said they can't contact. So that is what really made me notice and recognize that there are, just like anything, just like restaurants, just like businesses, just like whatever. There's strong businesses and not so strong businesses. There's strong sales team and not so strong sales teams. Good sales process, not so good sales process, right? So that's what helped me understand that sometimes it's about finding the right client, and that's why you need to have a client acquisition strategy, which at the time for me, I was just emailing everybody and LinkedIning everybody, and then I hit them up on Instagram and Facebook. I wanted it bad. Like, how bad do you want it? If you're just going to do one strategy and then be like, oh, it didn't work. Like, well, you're just like, there's 1,000 people trying to do every business model at any given time. So you need to go and you need to send it. Okay. And that's what I did. I got this client, and eventually they started crushing it to the point where we were at about 500 leads per week, which in timeshare was pretty big time. We were generating leads for $50 to $60, selling them for 95. We ended up raising the price to around 105 or 110, I believe. And our profit would ebb and flow, but we had some really strong months where we were hitting like 50K plus in profit consistently. Once we started once you start generating these leads and building up your pixel, and we moved to Google and we diversified, it's like, we didn't have to touch this a ton, which was really sweet. Every week we'd look at our stats. 1 week we might have a down week where our leads costed like 70 or 80, but then we'd have weeks where it's like, oh, leads are $40. Like, we're making at least $50 per lead, which on 1,000 leads is 50 grand. And again, that would ebb and flow. We never quite hit 100K profit in a month, but there was some very strong months there. And again, eventually there's ads that still run today from this campaign that are of me, which is pretty funny, because they were evergreen. They still work, pixel strong. I can't even explain it partly, but these ads are still running and still work. And so you're really building that asset up over time. That's very difficult to do when you're running retainers in people's accounts. Again, it's fine to run a retainer in your own account if someone's going to pay ad spend and then pay you on a back end or something like that to start out. But this is essentially my journey, guys. This is how I went from zero to kind of bootstrapping to having a business that really crushed it for several years there. We ended up selling off this brand, and we've been able to build other brands that generate similar profits every single month. And so I want to encourage you through this to just, again, I say this a lot, but don't be afraid to fail. You just got to go and start. Go get a client. Do what you need to do to get that client, bootstrap it. Send cold emails, send LinkedIns. Don't make it perfect. I think everyone looks at courses and stuff and they have these, like, there's templates and all this stuff. It's like, but if you go be a real human on the internet and look for partners and speak like a person, that's where you can get a client. And then you got to take some risk. You're going to take some risk on, and it's exhilarating, guys. It's like the best. Like, I will never forget the day. I remember sitting there with my phone at this wedding that I was at and looking at my phone and being like, I got a freaking lead. And now I've generated hundreds of thousands of leads. But that's like every new niche and every new thing we go into, the first lead, I'm like, yeah, let's freaking go. It is so much fun. So hopefully this video encourages you guys. Hopefully it's an interesting look at the journey of Big Papa Leads. I haven't been calling myself that lately, but it's fun to think back on the Big Papa Leads days. If you don't get that reference, you got to go back on the channel a bit further to when I wore some pit vipers. Anyways, guys, as always, join the free Skool. You can get access to all our courses. We're almost at 5,000 members in the free Skool. It's a sweet community of lead generators looking to generate leads for themselves. Again, if they own their own business, they want to up their lead flow and stop paying other people to generate them leads. Or if you're an agency, you want to sell leads to other people, you can learn to do it there. And as always, I always say, as always, you can join Leadbase Pro if you want more for $99 a month. It's basically a $10,000 one-on-one coaching inside of a $99 monthly product. Like, that's kind of an exaggeration, but not really. So thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate you all. And have a good summer, guys. Hags, as we would write in each other's yearbooks. Bye.